Hello, this is Priscilla Rice, and I'm coming to you from Live Oak Recording Studio. This week, we're going to have a rebroadcast of one of our earlier classic podcasts. We hope you enjoy it, and thanks so much for listening. Episode number 661, Givers and Takers.
You're listening to the official BNI podcast with BNI founder and Chief Visionary Officer, Dr. Ivan Misner. Stay tuned for networking and referral marketing tips from the man who's been called the father of modern networking, along with suggestions and insights into getting the most from your membership in the world's largest networking organization, BNI.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the official BNI podcast. I'm Priscilla Rice, and I'm coming to you from Live Oak Recording Studio in Berkeley, California. And I'm joined on the phone today by the founder and the Chief Visionary Officer of BNI, Dr. Ivan Misner. Hello, Ivan. How are you today?
I am doing fantastic, Priscilla. Thank you very much. Today's topic I call Givers and Takers. And it obviously revolves around the philosophy of giver's gain. Giver's gain is about giving to other people first. It's a standard that you should apply to yourself, not a stick that you hit other people with. And within this context, the giver cannot and should not expect an immediate return on their investment based on another's gain. What they should focus on is that given enough effort and time, their generosity will be returned by and through their network of contacts, friends, colleagues, fellow BNI members, many times over and in many different ways. I incorporated the philosophy of giver's gain into BNI 35 years ago because I saw that many networking groups were just far too mercenary in their approach. They used face-to-face networking or in-person networking as a face-to-face cold calling opportunity. I believe then, and I know now, that networking is all about relationship building, and that one of the best ways to build a relationship is to help others somehow first. Through giving, you can gain in so many different ways. I also recognize that there are takers in the world. And I wanted to do this podcast because every now and then I have someone say to me, I'm dealing with somebody who I think, is just in it for them and they're not giving. So I recognize that there are takers in the world. There are people who either don't understand the power of giver's gain or who don't really care or believe in the concept. I call the people who either don't care or don't believe, I put into two categories, can't do's and won't do's, which I've talked about a few times on the podcasts. The can't do's in this context just don't know how to do something, or they don't understand why it's important to do something. For these people, I've learned that with the right coaching, they may become willing to make that transition. Then there are the people who are the won't do's. They just want what serves them best and have no true intention of giving. And it's important to recognize them as soon as possible because they will abuse the relationship, not nurture it. So the point here is that life, and certainly your BNI chapter, requires discernment. Sometimes that is about evaluating the people in your network and whether they're willing to contribute to your relationship. This is where discernment comes into play. This is important. Giver's gain does not mean you should be a taker's victim. Let me repeat that. Giver's gain does not mean you should be a taker's victim. The world is full of givers and takers. So apply contextual insight and use appropriate judgment to give freely to the people who value the giving approach in life. Use discernment for the ones who do not. I know a member who gave a half a dozen referrals to someone in his group over an 18-month period. But the individual never reciprocated. And the man came to me seeking advice. And I coached him to do the following. I said, invite the person out for a one-to-one meeting and come prepared to the meeting with as much detail as possible about the half a dozen referrals you gave. And I may have mentioned this briefly in a previous podcast, but I want to go into more detail here. I said, go to the meeting prepared with as much details about the 6 referrals as you can recall. And instead of sitting down with them, which is common, and say, hey, I've given you 6 referrals, you haven't given me any. Start with the referrals you've given him. Start with the oldest and ask the following questions. How did it work out? Did it turn into business? If so, was it as much as you had hoped? Did the relationship work out as well? And use open-ended questions to determine how well that referral worked out for the individual. I said, after a few minutes, do the same for the next referral, and then the next referral, and so on until you discuss all the referrals that you've given that individual. Now, here's where your discernment needs to be fine-tuned. What if all those referrals you gave this fellow member didn't work out like you thought? Then you need to ask the person, how could you give better referrals in the future? Because the problem is not them. The problem is the quality of referrals that you may be giving them. And so you before you say, hey, give me some referrals too, you might want to improve the quality of your referrals. However, if any of those referrals turned out to be good and possibly resulted in business, then take the following tack, I told him. Tell the person that you are really glad that the referrals that you gave have worked out well. Really glad. And pause and take a moment. And then say, since some of them have worked out for you, I'd really appreciate if you could do something similar for me. Maybe we could talk a little bit about how I can help you do that. And from there, talk to the person about what a good referral is for you, how they can refer people to you, and even dive deeper into specific clients that they may have that would be a good referral for you. That was the advice I gave this gentleman. He came back to me a few weeks later and he said he was so glad he followed my advice rather than just end the relationship or just be mad and not give him any referrals. He told me the individual apologized profusely in the conversation and acknowledged that this needed to be a two-way relationship. He said that they spoke at length about how he could reciprocate with him. And just within the last few weeks, he had already done so. And he said the referral that the gentleman gave me was a really big referral, and it ended up being a great client. And so this is what I would tell you if you are talking or thinking about talking to somebody about reciprocating, and you think they may be a taker. Find out first. Talk to them about the referrals you gave. Ask them how they worked out using those questions that I just shared with you. And if they work out well, let them know that it would be nice if you could reciprocate. Sometimes I find that people are so busy in life that they're just not thinking about the importance of having a reciprocal relationship. Sometimes they don't know how, and sometimes they don't care. And all three require discernment, and that discernment requires a different response strategy. If they don't know how, that's a much different response than they don't care. They don't care, that's a taker. They don't know how, then it's important for you to show them how. So your giving energy should be focused on people who are aligned with the need for reciprocity. They may or may not be able to give back to you directly, but observe their behavior before you continue to blindly evolve into a giving victim. The more energy you have for giving, I think the more you are able to give. And giving more where you have strong relationships makes you able to practice this philosophy in a healthy way. I believe, and I know I've said this in the podcast before, giver's gain is about taking off your bib and putting on an apron. It's about serving others. It's about building a relationship by helping people first. And that's my theme for today, givers and takers. Priscilla, any thoughts?
Oh, that was great. I think, you covered it really well. I don't have anything particular to add on.
Okay. Well, thank you. And so I would love for you, if you're listening to this podcast, put a comment in here. If you've had any kind of conversation with somebody where you sat down with them and talked to them about the referrals you've given and asked if they could reciprocate, I'd like to hear your stories. Share here on BNI Podcast your stories about having conversations with people and how it has turned around. And if it hasn't, go try it right now. Try it over the next week or two, and then come back to this podcast and post your results. I'd really like to hear your results. And before we wrap up, Priscilla, I know you're going to mention Ivan's Inner Circle, and it is the sponsor. And I really love doing the Inner Circle. It is a site where I'm doing coaching with members, and it's open to the public. And I just wanted BNI members to know that I donate 100% of my profits, the royalties that I receive from this. It's another company that runs it, but I do receive royalties. I give 100% of my royalties to charity. At this time, right now, it's to the BNI Foundation that I'm donating all of my profits to. And so, should anyone decide they want to be part of Ivan's Inner Circle, and right now we have about 24 webinars that are up, and I do private Facebook Lives just for the Inner Circle. And anyone who wants to participate in that, feel free to go to ivansinnercircle.com. Back to you, Priscilla.
Okay, that sounds like such a great opportunity. I hope some of our BNI members take you up on it. So I think that Ivan's covered it. We have a wonderful sponsor, and it's www.ivansinnercircle.com, and go check it out. And thank you so much for listening. This is Priscilla Rice, and we look forward to having you join us again next week for another exciting episode of the official BNI podcast.